Welcome to r/Prorevenge. Let's freaking go. So I'm 19F and only been living with my mother for a good 3.5 years. Was put into a foster care at young age and don't remember living with my mother at all. Before moving in with her, she would tell me how great it would be for me to live there and how I would be treated with respect and yada yada yada. Well, since I started college, things went to shit. My whole life, I wanted to go to college for art, but my mother convinced me that it was stupid, so I chose to go for a business degree. I got into my state's business and marketing honor society during my last year of high school for having a 98 average in all 5 of my business classes. My first semester of college, everything started out fine. Then the end of September hit, and I got a reimbursement from financial aid. Let me add, my mother is on SSI for minor disabilities and hasn't worked in the past 18 years. She has arthritis and fibromyalgia, so apparently she can't work. I got public assistance that I never knew about since I was never allowed to do paperwork for anything. I thought we only got food stamps, but apparently she lied and said I was paying a couple $100s for rent so she could get more money. So she was getting nearly $500 a month for my needs. I never got anything unless it was Christmas, and $350 a month for food stamps. My boyfriend had to buy me food because I was never allowed to eat at home and didn't want to get a $3,000 meal plan on campus. Anyways, I got a healthy $2,000 back from financial aid, which I originally planned on spending on clothes. I hadn't had a pair of fitting jeans since I lived with my mother, a laptop for school, and food. Well, apparently, every time I get money, it belongs to my mother. She demanded I give her most of the money, so I spent $1,500 on some jeans for me and a brand new PS4 system, PS Vita, PS Plus, and a bunch of PS4 games for my boyfriend. I know that sounds reckless of me, but he's paid me back for it. She was pissed and belittled me till I gave her the rest of the money for rent and bills and food. She went off and bought her boyfriend drugs. I was mad because obviously that's just not okay. I just pushed through the semester and kind of sucked it up like I usually do. February came along and pretty much the same thing happened. She demanded my $3,000. I got more this past semester because I only had to pay for one textbook. To pay for rent, electricity, the Wi-Fi, food, and everything under the sun. She got mad when I refused to give her more than $350. I went off and spent the money on my anniversary, including outfit, gas, 2 meals, and some gifts, a new phone. My phone barely worked and was 7 years old, and prepaid my phone plan for the next few months. I also bought myself some food for when I was home. She was irate. How dare I spend money on my boyfriend and not the woman who birthed me? I tried staying away from home as much as possible, driving around with my boyfriend for the most part, but every time I came home I would get yelled at. Well, March was when shit hit the fan. I needed my Medicaid card, they put cash assistance on that card for convenience, and birth certificate for a program that helps people get jobs in the area, and she wasn't having it. Apparently, saying I needed them was being rude and disrespectful. I ignored her for the most part and kept insisting that I needed them right away because I had to leave. She gave them to me after half an hour of me telling her I needed to leave and just started yelling at me. So I left for a few hours and I got a call from my caseworker asking when I would turn in timesheets. I had to get a signature from each teacher stating I was in class to keep my insurance benefits and the food stamps. I didn't know about the cash assistance. Then she told me I could lose the cash assistance if I didn't. I asked her what she was talking about and she told me I got approximately $500 a month to pay for rent and other things I needed. I informed her that I never knew about that and she was very upset that my mother was using the money on God knows what. She told me to change the PIN on the card and to not let my mother touch it. So I changed the PIN on my card, went home, and my room was torn up. My clothes were everywhere, my old laptop was missing, my Christmas gifts from my boyfriend were gone. I was very upset. I told my mother that I wanted my stuff back, and she just threw everything at my door. I started packing my bags because I was done with her garbage. She demanded I give her my Medicaid card back since she keeps everyone else's. She got in my face, threw my glasses onto the floor, tried throwing my new phone, and was just screaming at me till I gave it to her. I have post-traumatic stress disorder, so I panic whenever someone is even slightly loud. After she went to the store and tried buying something with it, she came home and started shoving me around, demanding I give her the PIN. I was just like my father. I was a piece of garbage for buying jeans that actually fit me for once in my life. I was trash for liking the presents I got from my boyfriend and not from her. I got pants that were 2 sizes too big and very low rise for Christmas. Yeah, no. Etc., etc. She actually hit me because of it and hit me till I gave her my PIN. So, of course, I was dumb and gave it to her. Someone, for some reason, called the the cops, and they showed up shortly after, and her boyfriend started telling them I was abusive and manipulative and a pathological liar. I showed them where she hit me and tried explaining that she took my Medicaid card, but they didn't care. The cops never care because supposedly my mom's boyfriend has put half of our local police force into the hospital. After the cops left, my mother said that my boyfriend, who has done nothing and has only been supportive of me throughout this, was a pedophile, I'm a year older than him, and that he was not allowed to enter the house again. Then she said I had a new curfew of 6 p.m. I had a class that ended at 5 and it took me 2 hours to walk home, so that was stupid, and if I left the house, I was to never return. So I left. My boyfriend took me to homeless shelter specifically for teens and young adults that were in abusive situations and had nowhere else to go. I got my own apartment, with the potential of getting a roommate at some point, and I have honestly never felt better in my life. The following day, I go to get a new card, and my mother had taken out $260 at 5 a.m., with the help of my oldest sister. I had $4 to buy food for 2 weeks before I could apply for my own food stamps and cash assistance case. Most of the time I only had water, and I would eat every 3 days at my boyfriend's house. When the virus hit, his dad refused to let me over even though he knew what was going on, to a certain extent. I didn't eat anything for a week before being able to get food stamps. I wish I had gotten a job, but having 8 classes, one of which was 6 hours a week for a measly 1 credit, took up the majority of my time. The college suggested I withdraw to focus on my mental health. I was afraid of leaving my new place because I didn't want to be attacked by my family or my mom's boyfriend's drug addict friends. I went from seeing my therapist for half an hour every other week to seeing her for an hour every week. She suggested that I cut contact with my mother permanently, even though it meant losing a good $3,000 worth of stuff I bought myself over the past 12 years. I got paid to babysit and take care of the farm while in foster care. I was so upset about losing all 40 of my stuffed animals. They really meant a lot to me, and they kinda were the only things there that helped me calm down from a panic attack. I know it sounds immature, but I've had most of them since I was about 8 years old. Then something popped in my head while I was applying for my own food stamps and cash assistance case. The revenge. I realized I could easily report my mother for welfare fraud. Not only had she been taking my $500 a month, but she had lied and said her boyfriend and her didn't share food and were roommates. She paid to use other people's food stamps, and she has sold her food stamps for cash to buy fast food or drugs. So I did just that. I went to our state's website and reported her fraud, adding when she took the money from my card at 5 a.m. that one day. I went into detail, gave the exact location of where she did it and everything. I said she used other people's cards all the time, which was very true, and how she demanded my card whenever I had it. A couple weeks later, I get a letter from the Department of Social Services, DSS. They accidentally sent it to my address instead of my mom's, thinking she moved along with me. I open it and I read that she was denied public assistance, denied medical insurance, and denied food stamps. She met the requirements for getting them, but because of my report, she lost everything but SSI, as far as I know. What probably helped was that I told DSS she stole my card and requested a new one, and the lady at the front desk was mortified. I found out she took the money out later when I set up the card online and saw all previous transactions for the past year. She's out $850 a month, more than her SSI, and out of health insurance, which was paid for by the state, all because of me, and I boasted about it to my therapist. My therapist actually congratulated me because I'm very shy with people, so to report something like that was very unlikely of me unless he got me very angry. Not sure if this was appropriate here, but it took a lot out of me to be able to even do it. Thanks, anxiety. Man, girl, that ride was crazy. Sounds like dealing with your mom was a lot, but I'm glad you got out of there. Good for you. I rented a little house from a man who owned a painting business. The power was off when we came to see the property, but he assured us everything works, even put it in the contract. The place was dirty and poorly maintained, so we negotiated the security deposit down to $300. Turns out the heat/air didn't work, along with the refrigerator and dishwasher. I asked him to have someone look at them. He cursed me up and down. He called and left threatening voicemails. He would show up unannounced and let himself in. On one of the visits, I showed him that the crawl space was flooded and was a breeding ground for thousands, if not millions, of cockroaches and mosquitoes that would come up through the floor vents. There was absolutely no ductwork, even though he claimed the heat/air worked fine. He accused me of causing the flood myself, even though I showed him the source was a pipe that had rusted through. He refused to address any problems and said, if you don't like it, then you can move. You can't pay for a bargain and expect to live in the Ritz. This man was a terrible man in general. Once he hired someone off Craigslist to cut down a tree in the rental property's yard. The man worked literally all day for the agreed $150, cut up and hauled off the tree. He came back that evening, just standing in the yard. I asked if I could help him. He said he was waiting for the owner to get paid. The owner kept replying, saying he was on the way but never showed up. Our neighbor told us he had punched the previous renter in the face and refused to pay him for a day's work for his company. He had bragged about renting to illegal immigrants and not having to do anything because they wouldn't sue. We had a newborn baby, so we called his bluff and agreed to find a new place to live. We left the home in much better shape than we found it. He said he would mail us the security deposit, but never did. He dodged my phone calls until one day he called to say, "You aren't getting it back. You broke the contract when you left early, so go f*** yourself." I was really upset because we were new parents and had very little money. That $300 was a big deal to us and a drop in the bucket for this man. He owned an upscale painting business and had 15 rental properties. The next week, I was online leaving negative reviews for his business when I clicked a link and noticed his website's domain had just lapsed. I knew what I had to do. I immediately bought it, then created a homepage with contact info for his biggest competitor. I emailed him from his old domain asking him if he wanted to buy the website for $320, the cost of the security deposit, plus the price I had paid for the domain. He was irate. He started calling my work, threatening to sue my employer. He even contacted my parents and threatened to sue them. He left a bunch of threatening voicemails for me, saying he was going to beat me up and he knows where I live and he has my social security number. I received emails from several review sites asking if I was trying to update the contact info for the business. He must have used his old domain's email as his contact email. I didn't want to get in trouble for impersonating his business, so I did not respond. The contact info was never changed. I received a few emails from potential clients. I called him and told him about the painting job requests. I gave him the contact info for one of the clients to prove I wasn't just making it up. I told him it was the last time I was going to do that for him and suggested he buy the website back in order to not miss out on any other jobs. He told me he was taking me to court. I told him I had recorded his threatening phone calls and saved all of his texts and voicemails. He said he was going to sue me for illegally recording him, not illegal in my state. I said, "I look forward to seeing you in court where I countersue and press charges for harassing me," and I hung up. He called back and cussed me out for hanging up on him. I said, "Call me back when you can speak respectfully to me," and hung up again. We repeated this about 5 times. Each time he was more angry until the last time. He spoke respectfully and explained he hadn't got a single job in months. I suggested he focus more on creating a website to find business. He lost it and cursed me out again. 6 months passed and he still hadn't bought the website from me. I get a call from him begging for me to do the right thing and give him the website back. I told him the current price was $350. 6 months later, I get another phone call. I told him the current price is $380. Eventually, he texted me to say, "I went out of business. I hope you're happy." I responded, "I hear having a website really helps your business. $380 and it's yours." He told me what a terrible person I am and said, "Karma's a bitch." I responded, "Maybe if you stop trying to rip people off, your karma wouldn't be so bad." That was the last time I ever heard from him. The major business listing sites confirmed his business did indeed close. I renewed the domain for another 2 years just in case he was bluffing. A few months later, I drove by his office to see if it was still there. It was empty with a "for rent" sign posted. I never got that $300 back and spent money on domain registrations, but it was totally worth it. TLDR, Slumlord unjustly kept my security deposit, so I bought his website. I put his competitor's contact info on the homepage. I offered to sell it back to him for the price of the security deposit. He refused and threatened to sue me repeatedly. He wound up losing his business. Edit, I removed pricing and domain renewal timeline because I was estimating it was bothering people. It was in 2013 through GoDaddy, but if it really matters to you, I can send screenshots of verifying emails, company info, and the domain address. Just message me because I can't post it here or it would break the rules of not giving out personal info. Oh man. You know, landlords can often screw with people so easily, and I'm I'm glad you and your family didn't let it get to you. Especially with a baby, you need to keep your family safe, and I'm glad you got out of there. Personally, I think $300 is a small price to pay for messing with that man's life just as much as he did yours. My spouse was the second person hired at a consulting company in a very specialized industry. In her 15 years with the firm, it grew to a respectable 3-office, 8 to 10 employees at each location entity. She and the owner grew the business on the contacts, expertise, and presentation of my wife, to the extent that my wife's abilities and education were the main reason new business came through the door. Over the years, her scope of responsibility grew so that the owner was basically 75% absent and mostly unaware of day-to-day activity. As he got more and more removed from the business, he would make overtures that he would eventually retire and sell her the business. He was so dependent on her income generating that he took out a life insurance policy on her. I did not involve myself too much, but at a major industry dinner party I attended with her, he introduced my wife to the table as my girl Friday, basically a secretary, which was weird. Over the years, she tried to get an agreement in place to buy the firm, even if it was years away. He always delayed and made promises but never followed through. I told her, this guy doesn't respect you or your contribution, he will never sell you the business because there is no reason to. He can make more money by stringing you along, and essentially, you are the business, why would he sell it to you? One day, out of the blue, my wife received a raise and bonus, a very minor amount of money, and a contract that included a non-compete, non-disclosure agreement. After reading it, she realized that the owner was trying to lock her down from leaving for another firm. She had been getting feelers from other companies. To make things even more suspicious, she received a call from a competitor who said they were in final stages of due diligence and they wanted to meet her. The asshole was selling the company and didn't think to tell her or ask if she was interested in buying it. She ignored the agreement and there were no other agreements in place. She was totally free. My wife is extremely loyal. She has missed so many special days working for this guy, stuck around when they were wobbly, even skipped paychecks when there were tough financial times. She was furious, the absolute maddest I've ever seen her. We discussed starting her own firm, and I asked how much business is contractually obligated to stay there if you leave. It turned out that most agreements were either handshakes or a 30-day at will. I also asked how many would leave with you. She said about 75%, including her biggest source of revenue, who didn't even know the owner. In a very short time, my wife took a 3-week vacation. She had months of unused time, during which she rented an office in the same building and made all the arrangements to set up a new shop. She agreed to leave any and all company property behind and do her best to give the old company no obvious ammo for litigation. She called her clients and said, I'm leaving. If you want to look into relocating your account with my new company, you'll need to quit the old one before we can discuss it. Most understood the implication. While she was on vacation, she received a panic call from her boss. We lost XYZ company. Do you know anything about it? She said, I'm sorry, but I just sent you an email. I've resigned. All my keys and company stuff is on my desk. Bye-bye. The new firm took basically 90% of the business and seamlessly transitioned into the same company as it was before, but with a new owner. Even most of the office staff would come aboard. Within a year, her old company closed down except for the small office her old boss ran. She sees him once in a while and he just scowls at her. Oh boy, man. This is why you always gotta treat people nice. You know, I'm talking to the boss now. If you just recognized her value and decided to pay her for it, and if you were gonna sell the business, you should have just sold it to her, man. You knew she was the best. You knew she could do the job. Come on, man. You missed out big time. That's on you. I'm happy your wife got out of there, and she sounds like she got the best part of that deal, man. Alright, that is it for today, guys. Did you enjoy these posts? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, this is Max, signing off.